Greetings, fair listeners. I am Kimberly HayDay,
And I'm Amanda Day,
and you are listening to the Fundraising HayDay podcast, because why wouldn't you be?
where we cover the how-tos of grants and fundraising.
And how we can all do a better job changing the world through philanthropy, even in tough times.
Absolutely. And remember, our Patreon subscribers get these episodes early.
So, quick little message here. Amanda and I recently wrapped up a speaking engagement for the 2025 Eastern Grants Forum. We may have played some grant management bingo.
Yeah.
We may have
Prizes
talked
were
about,
given.
finance department, strange bedfellows, learning to work with your finance team. Because having a great working relationship really does make your life as a grant pro so much easier. And you know what? If you can play a game and learn and have a good time, but learn important things, that's also good.
Absolutely. So it was such a great day at a fabulous conference. And we're talking about this because that's what Kimberly and I do, right? If you would love to have us at an upcoming event, please reach out to us at hello@haydayservices.com. We do keynotes, we lead workshops, we're in person, we're online, we play games, we teach. Whatever it is you need, we are happy to be there and provide that information for you. We certainly have how-tos about grant research and writing and management, but we also dive into topics that are about grant professionals as leaders and how to improve philanthropy and what's going on in the world of federal funding in 2025, right?
Sustainability, looking at program development, using grant applications to drive program and organizational development. So it's a passion.
It really is. And what we love to do is bring what you need for your conference, your workshop, whatever it is. We don't want to just say, "Hey, this is what we teach." We'd love to collaborate. We love to figure out what it is you need. So again, if that's something you're interested in talking to us about, please give us a shout. hello@haydayservices.com, and we can talk about what we can bring to your next training event.
Happy to do it. So
Mhm.
after a quick word from our sponsor, we are excited to share our interview with Stacy Fitzsimmons, who happens to be our current sponsor. But she has some amazing things to share about leadership and organizations and change and failure as an opportunity. She earned her chops in the world of federal funding and has fabulous insights to share. Stay tuned. We are thrilled that SNF Writing Solutions is our podcast sponsor for the second half of season 8. Also, season 8, what? Wow. So founder and CEO Stacy Fitzsimmons holds a Master's of Business Administration, where her thesis focused on strategic planning and culture change. Combined with her 20 plus years of experience as a project management and grant professional, with a federal grant win rate of 70%, she has learned more than a thing or two about leadership, consulting, and taking calculated risks. So take a listen.
Stacy, knowing how to submit a successful grant proposal and running a successful consulting business are two very different things. And I know this firsthand. So, what are things you wish you knew before you started your consulting business?
How much work it was going to be.
Right.
Um, I mean, there is just doing the work, and then there's running the business. And I like to say I got my A in accounting when I did my MBA, and I never wanted to do accounting ever again. But we have to. We have to do the accounting. We have to have the marketing. We have to have all of the underlying things. We have to have the contracts. We have to have ways of paying and receiving payment. Um, you have to have methods for communicating with people. Like it's all kinds of things. Um, and I think that is the biggest thing is that um, how much time it takes to just run the business versus doing the business is probably the biggest lesson. I think the second would be um, how much you have to value yourself and your own time.
Mhm.
in order to actually be able to get everything done. And to be able to manage the relationships. The relationship building is such a key component to running a consultancy, that I don't think I understood the level of relationship building and adult management that would come into play in being a consultant. So I think that was the other thing, is that I wish I would have known how to handle difficult people a lot sooner. And I wish I would have known my own boundaries more. I would have valued my own boundaries more when I got started. It took some very hard lessons to be able to get to where I am now, and understanding what I want and what I expect, and who I will work with and who I won't.
Those are can be painful lessons, but certainly important ones for sure.
Painful. Yes.
To find out more about Stacy Fitzsimmons, SNF Writing Solutions, and her incredible offerings, visit snfwritingsolutions.com.
Well, today we are joined by Stacy Fitzsimmons, CEO of SNF Writing Solutions. Stacy is many things, but we'll get the ball rolling here. Stacy is an established project management and grant writing professional with expertise in federal and state proposal writing. Over the past 6 years, she has an average win rate of more than 70%. Super impressive. If anyone tells you that they have a 100% grant rate, they have probably written and gotten awarded one grant. So I'm just putting that out there. 100% doesn't mean what you think it means. So Stacy is a federal grant specialist. She has written, we talked about this right before we started recording. She and her team at SNF Writing Solutions have winning applications totaling over $500 million in funding to almost all of the major federal agencies. We got HHS, EPA, Department of Commerce, USDA, Department of Energy, Department of Labor, all the heavy hitters. So great, deep experience there. In addition to all of that, she is certified in the compression planning method and received the Maxwell Leadership Certification. Remember that, it's going to come up in just a moment. Her MBA is from Indiana Wesleyan University, where her thesis focused, one moment while I make sure I get this right, where her thesis focused on strategic planning and culture change. Also very germane to our discussion today. And she's got her BA in communication from DePaul University. Welcome to the show, Stacy.
Hi. Thanks, Kim. Thanks, Amanda.
So glad to have you. So we always start off when we have a guest hearing about their origin story, and you have been in the grant business for a few years now. How did you land in this work, going from communication and leadership, which does, I mean, it makes sense, but also I know a lot of communication majors because I was a communication major too, and I think I'm the only grant writer I know from my school. So how'd you end up here?
All right. So we go back in our time machine to right? Okay, so yeah. There's gonna be some people that are like, what just happened? Anyway, some of us are gonna get it.
We may
so
sound. It's okay.
2009, First Recovery Act is out. And I am working at an economic and workforce development consulting firm. And I am their marketing and communications person. I'm responding to RFPs. The other half of my job is being a project manager for a PhD economist who was a teddy bear, but really needed somebody to project manage him. So I had split roles. And I am told as he's walking out one day, by the way, dress up tomorrow, because we were a pretty casual organization. So that's code for we have either a client coming in or we're going to it. Okay. But he was on the phone, so that's all the information I got. Then the next morning, we get in the car and I'm like, okay, his phone rings. Of course, he takes the call. He talks the entire way to a place that is called Remy International. I'm like, what the heck? And of course, it's 2009, so I don't have like a great smartphone, so it's not like I can like just like immediately Google it and figure out why I'm there.
Through that.
So we walk in, he finally hangs up the phone. We go into a conference room that's full of attorneys and engineers. And they're talking about hybrid electric heavy equipment, like construction equipment.
Just some casual conversation.
And yeah, and I'm like, I have no idea why I'm here. Like, I'm taking a note every once in a while when somebody's like, oh, that's a decision that has to be made. Like, I usually like write down those things because that's usually why I'm there.
Okay.
Nope. Halfway through the meeting, my boss leans over and he whispers, they're going after one of those new federal grants and you're going to write it.
Did your heart drop?
I just started writing down everything and I figured I'd just Google it later, which is actually what I did. So that was a $121 million project. It was a $60 million ask and they won.
I'm
In
gonna-
between, you know, that was the first grant I wrote.
Wow.
Okay, Stacy, my first grant was $2 million request, and I about peed my pants when I
I know, right?
60
So
million. Good gracious.
60 million for my first application. Like I had never like written some numbers as big as what we were talking about for like one piece of equipment. So it turns out between submission and finding out that they won, the company figured out that I could be an asset to the firm and the
Oh.
clientele. So I started writing grants for them. The firm did not make it through the recession unscathed. And so when I got back from maternity leave, I was laid off.
Mhm.
First thing I did when I got home was Googled grant writing. And I figured out it was a thing. There was even an association for these people that did this thing. So joined the association, found a class called Becoming a Grant Writing Consultant by one and only Dr. Bev Browning.
Mhm.
Took her class, figured out that it was a thing, and that was 2010. And I started the company that summer. And
Wow.
of course, I kind of buried the lead there. I just had Caitlin, so we had to decide between diapers and my dream of always owning my own business. We chose diapers and
Yeah.
daycare. So I went to work for the state for about 3 years. But during that 3 years, I was totally honest and upfront with them from the beginning. I'm going to be building a company on the side.
Uh-huh.
And in 2013, February 6th, 2013, I left the state, pulled the cord, and I've been out on my own ever since.
Wow.
So that was when I became full-time on my own.
Nice. Well,
That's
I mean, the getting laid off part, returning from maternity leave, not nice. That sucks.
It does. That's one of those things where I decided that I was not going to take another marketing job because that was my fifth layoff in a marketing position. So talk
wow.
about some learned life lessons.
Makes sense. Well, and sometimes like at the time when things seem so horrible, but you're looking back, you're like, but that was the shove I needed that led me down to this path. To
No, I consider that every single time that was me getting a slap upside the head, like this is not what you're supposed to be doing. Like you're like you're supposed to be on your own. You're supposed to be owning your own business. So every time I got laid off, I just had a thick head and just kept getting whacked upside the head. And finally I was like, oh,
Well, and I have to say too, just a funny aside, when she mentions this grant organization, which is the Grant Professionals Association, which is how we met Stacy and how I met her before I'd even met her, the number of people that either thought I was Stacy or mistakenly called me Stacy and then realized, yeah, so we finally met and we're like, we're apparently are each other's doppelganger because
I was called Amanda at my first GPA conference, which was
Uh-huh.
the Indianapolis conference, and I hadn't even seen you yet.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even know who you were yet. I hadn't seen you on stage yet. So yeah. So yes, we are two different people.
In case anybody's still confused by that.
Still, people are still confused. And now our names are on the screen with our images. So
Yes, there you go.
So if you're watching on our YouTube channel, we have visual confirmation that there are two separate people with their. So yeah, so we're good. We are good. So one of the things that in your multifaceted, all the accomplishments and everything in your intro, I briefly mentioned the Maxwell Leadership Certification Team, and I would love to circle back to that. I know it could be like a 5 day discussion because it's such an incredible amount, but just sort of the thumbnail for folks who don't know about this at all, like what drew you to pursue this and how has it impacted your work as a grant professional?
Oh, absolutely. So I was first introduced to John Maxwell when I was doing my MBA program. So we're talking like we're getting in like the Wayback Machine. So yes.
Right, that's right.
So we're and that was when I first read the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And it was so impactful to me that it actually became part of one of the elements of my thesis. The company that I was working for at the time, they were adopting Collins Good to Great, Covey's Four Disciplines of Execution. And here I had read Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership and took it to the president. I was like, you need to read this book. And it ended up that we ended up having weekly meetings and kind of like our own little like book group
Wow.
about kind of some of the things that I was learning, some of the things I was seeing. I was in a I was in a marketing position. And so I had contact with all the leaders within the organization at some point in time and trying to write these responses. So um, that's what I wrote. My thesis was actually how to implement Collins Good to Great, Covey's Four Disciplines of Executions, and Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership in one organization. So that kind of began the inevitable.
The obsession.
So we fast forward a couple years later, um, and last year, I was, I would say, 2019, 2020, I burnt out. That's, I've been really open with that. Um, but last year, it was not just burnout. I was a crispy fried charcoal briquette.
Oh,
It had been about 23 months of having deadline after deadline after deadline after deadline. And finally, July of last year, I told my team, I will talk to you after the kids go back to school. Like, I need some time. And um, we've done some things since then, but I kind of had to lighten the load a little bit with deadlines. And part of that was I had to kind of go back to my roots. Like, what is it that I value
Mhm.
and I want to see as part of my career? And when that happens, I usually go to books because books are part of my love language. Um, Goodreads and Kindle Unlimited know that for sure. So I I went to my bookshelf and was just kind of, staring at it. And one of those like zone out kind of what am I going to do things. And the 21 Irrefutable Laws jumped off the bookshelf at me. And I was like, okay, I got it. I got the message. I pulled it off, started reading. Then I had a friend um, who messaged me and was like, can we go to breakfast? I need to talk to you about some things that I think are going to be changing. And we go to breakfast, and she's like, I got laid off. I know you've been through this before. I think I want to be a consultant. So, like, what are some of the steps? So we had great conversation about what all that means. And a month later, she emails and she's like, hey, can we touch base again? I want to I'm solidifying some things and I really want to talk to you again. I'm like, absolutely. So we meet for breakfast and she's like, so here's what I've done. Here's some of the things that I have lined up. And I'm also going to go and do this Maxwell Leadership Certification. Okay, so this is mentioned, like, this is the second time in as many weeks, right? So I'm like, God, universe, okay, I get it. I get it. So I'm like, tell me more. And that was the week before Thanksgiving. And the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I signed up. It was like, I get it. I drank the Kool-Aid 20 years ago. I understand this. I get this. This is definitely part of my foundational beliefs. And so then in March, I was officially certified. So and I think why it resonates so much with me is that every day I am dealing with organizational leaders that are either trying to implement change, dealing with change that has already happened or been thrust upon them,
Mhm.
or they're trying to manage teams that are very passionate about what they do, but sometimes don't necessarily know the organizational things that have to happen
Yeah.
in order to make things happen. So, really, it's nothing that I haven't been doing. I just had to be reminded that that's what I enjoy about it. And that's why I do what I do, is that I like to help organizations and leaders achieve their vision.
Hmm.
And for the last 15 years, that has been through writing proposals and getting programs and plans on paper that they can then implement. Um, that's still going to be part of what I do. But, going forward with this certification, I can also help in ways that aren't necessarily just on paper. And it's not just words on a page, it's the underlying and the skill building and kind of the mental part of it and the mindset part of it that I can help shape organizations with too.
All of that.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, and also writing grants that hard for that long. I mean, you do. You're not the only briquette out there.
Mm-mm. I know I'm
I
not.
Hi, hello. So yeah, I love how you were like, I don't want to leave this field, but I need to find what feels better. It's not so hurtful. It makes me think, Amanda, when we interviewed, this was many seasons ago, but when we interviewed Pat DeBose and she was talking about, yeah, what am I going to get from this professional development or that? And it was her solution, very different from yours, but her solution to sort of revitalize was mentoring. Actually, it's not that different I mean, it's just a different approach to the same thing. It's like, let me share and coach and sort of lead from behind or lead in the middle instead of always grinding it out in just one certain way, like you said, on paper. So anyway, I think that anyone listening to this who's written grants for longer than 5 years knows exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I think probably out of all the work that you've done and the leadership training you've gone through I know one of the things you feel very strongly about is giving people the permission to fail, because that's, hard to try new things if you're not given permission to fail. So can you explain what that looks like for grant professionals in the nonprofit industry?
Absolutely. So, I guess for me, it's a mindset. And whether that's a personal mindset or an organizational mindset, both come into play when we're talking about working in the nonprofit field and being a grant professional. So, part of how we learn is from trial and error. And I just want to put emphasis on the part that it was trial and error.
Yeah.
It wasn't trial and always succeed. Okay. So, in order to actually learn something, you have to do something wrong. And you have to figure out what made it so that you did something wrong, so that you can correct it and do something better the next time.
Hmm.
Something better the next time might still not work great, but you've done something that you've also probably didn't do everything perfect. So, but you've learned something new then. So, all of these times where you haven't done something exactly right, you've had these little nuggets of learning. And every time you learn something, the next time you do it better. So it's not that you're ever going to reach perfection. None of us ever will. But every time you have a failure, That's an opportunity to learn something. Um, and for me, I have this happen professionally. I have it happen personally. As a mom, it happens almost every day.
Yep.
Um, so, um, it's bringing all of those lessons along with you and having a mindset that lets you reset after each learning opportunity and really putting into practice those things that you learn. And as a grant professional, um, we get opportunities to fail all the time. Every time we hit the submit button, it's an
Mhm.
opportunity to fail. It's also an opportunity to succeed. But every time it's also a learning opportunity. And I will say, I didn't get to 70% win rate right off the bat. Okay. But it took a lot of rejections, a lot of feedback from review panels that said, we didn't see this at all. We didn't read this. This was not a plan. This was just a bunch of words. Getting a lot of that feedback to really hone the craft and really figure out what it is that reviewers want, what it is that funders are looking for, and kind of figuring out with each submission and each set of feedback
Mhm.
what that means. Um, the first rejection I got, and it was a scathing review panel. Yes, I cried. Like, how can people say this about my work,
Yeah.
right? But then I read it again. I was like, and then I read it compared to what we've submitted. Like, okay, yeah, we said that, but did we really say it? And, did we really just like pay lip service to that criteria, or did we actually say we had a plan and really enunciate a plan? Okay, maybe we didn't. Okay, so next time we do this, and that was the turning point. So the next time I do this,
Mhm.
I need to do this. We need to have a more detailed discussion with the program team. We need to have a more open conversation with leadership about what this is going to mean. So that every time we get that feedback, you know, originally I took it very personally because it was like a report card on my work,
Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
we all feel that.
Mhm.
That is a report card on our work. But I realized it's not truly a report card on our work. It is 3 to 5 people's opinion on that particular instance of what we put on the page. And I stopped taking it personally. I started taking it very objectively. And that's when everything took off.
Yeah.
Our
Amazing.
conversations changed. The way that we worked with clients changed. Uh, and I will say, the biggest failure that we can have as a grant professional is missing a deadline. I think,
Oh, yeah.
and it is painful.
Yeah. And it's happened to me.
I
Happened to
think
me.
if it has not happened to somebody who is listening or watching this,
It
it
will.
will.
Yeah, it will.
It will.
Or if you meet someone who tells you that they're always perfect and they never miss a deadline, that's
Mhm.
like that is a red flag for me that either
Yes.
they're super new in their career or their definition of what facts are and my definition of what facts are two different
Different
things.
things.
True. True
Mm.
statement. But when you miss that first deadline,
Yeah,
it's an opportunity to reevaluate all your processes and everything that leads up to that submission. And
Yep.
that's exactly what it was for me. It was that I left it in the hands of someone else to review, upload, and submit. So I no longer do that. Everybody else still submits because I don't submit. I know there's different varying thoughts on that. I still don't submit. That is acceptance of terms and conditions that I am not in a position to do, so I don't do it. There are other people that do. That's fine. Everybody has their own philosophy on it, but I don't submit. I still don't. But what I do is I will get everything uploaded. I will make sure that
exactly.
everything is in its place.
Hmm.
then we set a Zoom time where I will watch them go through every document and do a review, and I will watch them hit the submit button.
There you go.
Because that is what is in my control. Now, if a client decides I don't need handheld through this and we're good, then that's fine. But I have them send me an email saying that. We're not having that on a phone conversation. So but that was that first time I missed a deadline. It was because they told me, we got this, we're good. And then something happened to the document and it got all wonky. I wasn't going to be in the office the particular day that it was due, hence why I wanted to submit it,
Earlier.
And couldn't find out like one of the documents got all messed up because of like they
Tech.
went offline and there was an online version, so there were different versions of blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were like, we need you to fix this. Like, I will be back at my desk at 4 o'clock. Like, so, and at 5:02, we submitted.
They, therefore, if you're listening and you're new to grants, that may sound like, hey, no big deal, whatever. But
it was 4:59 and 4:59.
Yep,
means 4:59.
It will literally not accept your document.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that was the dawn of a new age. We that is actually when my team transitioned to a different platform so that we could do easier file sharing, and not having clients emailing us documents and stuff. But that's how that, other than being ultra devastated about this, because there were so many organizations involved in that proposal, but we changed how we worked because we learned, and it was an absolute failure. I took ownership for my part of it. But we changed how we worked. And I could have taken that situation and just been like, I can't do this anymore. Like I failed. I missed a deadline. I'm done.
Yeah.
I could have. That's never been my mindset. And I think that's what's hard for a lot of people in our profession, is to have the mindset that you do have some opportunities to learn, change, and evolve. And especially in the nonprofit sector, where the tried and true are kind of the only things that are accepted sometimes.
right.
It's hard to think of new ways of approaching problems. And it really gets to the point where I see a lot of organizations where they get stagnant and it becomes hard. It almost becomes hard to get new grants because they've done it for so long that they don't see what's good. And that's actually why they came for an outside perspective with a consultant, is how do we present this? How do we write about it? What we're doing isn't working. And that's what I hear a lot. What we're doing isn't working. Well, what have you tried? And it's been
what are you willing to explore?
Exactly. That's exactly it. So it becomes an opportunity for conversation when you're an outside voice. But when you're an inside voice, you really do need to find those people that are willing to innovate, be innovative, think outside the tried and true, so that as an organization, you have those opportunities to learn. For those that are movie fanatics, Get Busy Living or Get Busy Dying. That applies to not only people, but it applies to organizations too.
Yeah.
If you're not connecting with your audience in new ways, if you're not trying to offer services in a way that are more meaningful to your population, your organization isn't going to be sustainable. It's not going to thrive. So as as those that are working with some of the most sensitive societal issues, with the most sensitive populations, we need to be able to innovate and do things in a way that meets people where they are. People aren't where they were 10 years ago. People aren't where they were 5 years ago.
Mm-mm.
I'm
And
even
for,
saying maybe a couple of weeks ago, but yeah. It's
well,
like,
I wasn't going to go there, but absolutely, people are
Yeah.
not where they were a couple weeks ago. So, um, it is a true, for organizations, it is no longer a nice to have for those conversations about how can we. I've been stressing to any organization that I work with in the last 9 months, game it out. If your funding that you've always counted on goes away tomorrow, how does your organization survive? How do
Yeah.
you provide services?
Because this is a real problem, especially in.
It has become a real problem this year.
Hmm.
And I, but it has had organizations thinking about things in a different way.
yeah.
Hmm.
And that thinking in a different way is actually them reflecting on some things that didn't go right or haven't been working. And I don't necessarily want to couch everything as a failure, but if something's not working, it can lead to a failure
Hmm.
Yeah.
unless you have your eyes open enough to be able to see it. So that's where you really need the big picture thinkers, not
Mhm.
just the people that are really great at tasks and getting things done. You need those people too. But every organization needs to identify the big picture thinkers that are like, okay, well, we have this, we have this, we have this, and this isn't working, that's not working. This is kind of working. So how can we revamp to me? And I don't like to use the word streamline anymore, but how do you make it so that you're offering services the best way that you can, in the
Mm.
most efficient way that you can, so that you're using the dollars that you have the most effectively.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And, you know, and giving your team the opportunity to bring new ideas to the table, um, that's probably one of the things that is scary for a lot of leaders,
Yeah.
uh, because I think there's a lot of us that have a lot of ego in what we do. We have a lot of personal ownership in what we do. That's what makes us really good in what we do to serve our community, is that we are fully emotionally invested in what we do. Um, the downside to that is sometimes we are so emotionally invested in what we do and how we do it that we don't necessarily take the opportunity to listen to others that are around us that might have ideas.
That's true.
So it's having an environment where your team is encouraged to try new things, document those things that they're trying, and then evaluate those things. And it
Mhm.
might not be a formal like evaluation, because as we know about it in some of our programming, but it's more about, okay, this worked kind of. This is how it turned out. We weren't expecting this. This happened instead. We think if we tweaked it this way, it might work a little bit better, but we're not sure. So we can either try to tweak it this way or we can just scrap what we did.
Yeah.
Okay. But scrapping what you did
Isn't.
isn't a waste of time.
Yeah.
Okay. That might be something that you put out into your industry of, hey, we tried this. Was our results for it. You might have a different experience in your community, but it didn't quite work for us.
Hmm.
And you might get some feedback that's like, well, how about if? That's one of my favorite, that's one of my favorite phrases is what if?
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So then it's not necessarily a total waste. It's a learning opportunity for not just you and your organization, but
Yeah.
organizations like you.
Yeah.
And I think, not just in the nonprofit organization, this is kind of broader than that. But if we changed our mindset to what if instead of that won't work, if our first response is what if,
Imagine the possibilities.
imagine what would happen. Okay.
Mhm.
But in order to ask what if, you have to be willing to accept that things might not work.
Yeah.
And for some people, that's really hard.
It is. Well, and I think too, sometimes you were talking about inside and outside people. Sometimes it so does help bringing in outside people. Kimberly and I get asked sometimes to do things by people that were like, wait, you can do this. We know you have the skills. They're like, yeah, but I'm an internal person and nobody listens to me. So
Mhm.
sometimes bringing in that outside person is that kind of voice of reason you need to make people to be willing to talk through all that stuff and make the mistakes and try new things. So if someone wanted to bring you in, Stacy, to be the person to help them do all of these things, how do they best find you and your team?
Oh, that's definitely the website, SNF Writing Solutions. And as we're putting out more resources, that'll be on the website. And as follow-up to this, I'll also be doing a mastermind for the book, Sometimes You Win, Sometimes You Learn. Of course, the author is John Maxwell.
Of course.
And dates for that will also be on the website.
Yes, we'll put a link to
Yeah.
your website and your course you're going to offer all in our show notes so people can check it out and you can be just as excited about Maxwell's leadership as Stacy is. Well, maybe not as excited, but
Oh no.
close to being there with her, right?
Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. I feel like we could have talked for
For
hours
3 hours,
about this,
yes.
but if you're listening and you're like, oh, I want to learn more, please, it's SNF, the letters SNF Writing Solutions.com and check it out. Stacy, thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, absolutely.
Loved it. Thanks again to today's sponsor, SNF Writing Solutions. If you want to learn more about all that Stacy and her team offers in terms of resources, coaching, and writing services, visit their website at snfwritingsolutions.com.
As always, thank you so much for joining us today. We couldn't and wouldn't do this without you.
Nope.
We hope that you enjoyed our interview with Stacy as much as we did. She had so much to share, and she's so passionate about organizational change and leadership. So hoping that touched you and motivated you, and you found it as fascinating as we did.
Yep, I enjoyed it as well. So, as always, we're honored you chose to spend time with us today. We hope you'll join us again in 2 weeks where we're going to be talking about one of Kimberly's most favorite topics, she said sarcastically. Yep, it's fundraising events.
I am so ready to get into it.
Yes, so talk then.
Bye.